But both sides, we're here on the bottom of Daf Lamed Beis, Amud Beis, and you can count up from the bottom of the Amud approximately 10 lines, and you'll see Heviu lo es hatamid kartzo v'chule. So the Mishnah describes the Tamid Shel Shachar of the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippurim. He does what's called kartzo, and then he gives over the dam to another Kohen who does what's called meruk. Meruk meaning he stirs up the dam. My krotzo, the Gemara now records machlokes, how to interpret the etymology, the word krotzo. Amar Ula is going to base himself on a pasuk in Yirmiyahu Navi, Lishna de Ktolahu. Hariga, he kills the animal, which means that he shechts the two simanim, or most of them, and the animal is a goner. Amar of Nachbar Yisrael Kra, from whence did Ula derive this conclusion? And he quotes a pasuk in Yirmiyah, and the pasuk says, Egla Yefefia Mitzrayim Keretz Mitzafon Ba Va. So let me just read to you the English translation of this pasuk. He says, Egypt is a very fair heifer, but a keretz from the north is surely coming. And what does that mean? The Gemara is going to ask my mashman quote the Targum, but what's the background of this pasuk in Yirmiyah? Yirmiyah is prophesizing about the Churban, the destruction of Mitzrayim at the hands of the Bavli. And maybe we shouldn't be crying so much because we know what the Mitzrayim perpetrated against our people, our ancestors. So Mitzrayim will be destroyed by Bavel. My mashma, how do we see in this pasuk that the word keretz means hariga? It's a lashon hariga. Can we targum Rabbi Yosef? Okay, this is what we call the Targum of Yonasan ben Uziel. Malka Yoe Havi Mitzrayim. The Malka Yofe is Mitzrayim. Amamin Katolin Mitzipuna Yesun Allah. First, I'll read you the Hebrew translation. He says, Amim Katliim Me'atzafon. In other words, there's going to be a country coming from the north down south. Hainu Bavel. Shehi Tzfonis Li Eretz Mitzrayim. So Bavel is from the north, coming down south to Mitzrayim. Yovoe Lea, v'yachtechu v'yikarsu osa. They will cut down Mitzrayim, destroy Mitzrayim. He says that Egypt was a fair kingdom, but murderous people from the north came upon it. murderous peoples from the north, a reference to Bavel, and the language of the pasuk of Keretz means that they would be killed. All right. Now we say the following. Why is the Mishnah telling us that the Kohen Gadol, when he gets to the Korban Tamid for the Avod of Yom Kippurim Krotzo, why doesn't it just say Shachto? And the answer is Krotzo Bekama. That Krotzo indicates that he doesn't completely check the animal. Omar Ula Berov Shnayim, V'chein Omar Rabbi Yochanan Berov Shnayim. He only cuts most of the simanim of each one of the two simanim, the kan and the vesh. Now, we know that shechita requires a sakin and requires shechting two simanim. Where do we know this from? It's halacha Moshe Misinai. It's not anywhere in the Torah itself. Now, what are these two simanim? One is called a kaneh. The kaneh is what we call loosely the windpipe. Well, let's see how he translates kaneh. He doesn't even bother. The kaneh is the windpipe. And it's asui tamaot. Tchiloso b'ktzei agaron v'sofo b'reah. So it starts at the height of the throat and it goes all the way down to the parallel to the height of the lungs. Darko over ha'avir me'ha'af el hareah. Okay, then, so the windpipe carries the wind to the lungs. Number two, the second team is called the Veshet. And that's also a tzinar, an inner pipe. And it's for the purpose of eating, the esophagus. Tchiloso bolua v'sofo b'keres. He tells you biologically, anatomically, where it's located. The darko, what does it function? Ovrim, ochlin, umashkin, me'apeh, el mareches ha'iku. So that the food and the drink is carried from his mouth into the stomach to the digestive system. The ideal mitzvah of shechita is to cut these two simanim totally, completely. The evidence nishchat rubo shel kana v'rubo shel veshet hashchita kshera. So rov is b'di'eved kosher. However, in the case of kritza, the Kohen Gadol shechs rov and not all of the two simanim. And he basically does the barest minimum of the shechita. And this is on Yom Kippurim, nonetheless. He says, Me'achar shebeder klal, on a normal day of the year, shochtim es shnei simanim chituk muchlat, ve'ilu kan medubar b'shchitas rov simanim v'lo kulam l'chein shina tana l'shono v'nokat krotzo. So the word krotzo indicates that this is not your classic shchita the whole year round, in which he severs these two pipes completely, the kana and the vosha. So again, let's go over this one more time. The reason why the Panav Mishnah went out of his way to use an unusual term of krotzo instead of the classic shchita is to indicate that we're going into a b'di'evet kind of shchita. This is not your ideal perfect shchita where he cuts the two simanim totally and severs them legamre, but rather he's only going to do a partial chituch hasimanim, and he's going to get rov shnaim, and that's called krotza. The Afresh Lakish Savar, this statement was Ula, and even Reish Lakish is going to agree to Ula that krotzo means berov shnayim. Now, what did Reish Lakish say? What was the nature of his statement, his formulation that proves that he agrees with Ula? So Gemara says no. The Amar Reish Lakish, v'chimeyacher sheshaninu. It's the beginning of the Mishnah in Chulin on Daf Chav Zayin with regard to Ofos and Behema Shchita. It says Hashonchet Simon Echad B'Of Ushnayim B'Behema Shchitosuk Shera Rubo Shel Echad Kamo. We're saying that if he shechts most of one of the Simonim, that's valid. So that's the language of the Mishnah, that Rubo Shel Echad Kamohu. Lama Shaninu Rov Echad B'Ofer Rov Shnayim B'Behema. Why did the Mishnah at the beginning of Chulin have to repeat itself? And the answer is, says Reish Lakish, Levisha Shaninu, Hey Viulo, Lekoin Go B'Yom Kippur Satom Krotzo Umirak Acher Shchita Al Yado V'Kibul Tzadam Uzrako is Yachol Lo Merek Yehei Pasul. Now again, this is a strange Gemara because the Gemara now goes off on a tangent. We still haven't proven Reish Lakish, and we still haven't answered the question as to why the Mishnah in Chulin had to repeat itself. But what we do have is a discussion about Lo Merek. So the Gemara takes a little break here and quotes Reish Lakish. But again, this is about Merek. Yachol Lo Merek Yehei Pasul. Reish Lakish holds that it would seem from the lashon of the Mishnah that he needs Merek. I mean, the Mishnah says that Kritza without Merek is possible. So the Gemara asks, in Cain, Merek now becomes a major part of the Shechita because, according to Reish Lakish, Kritza without Merek is Psula. Merek becomes a critical part of the Shechita. But yet it's being done by another Kohen, not by the Kohen Gadol. Is Havi le'avoda the Acher. Now the second Kohen who's doing the Meruk is now implementing Shechita. Because Reish Lakish holds that the Shechita alone without the Meruk is not kosher. So the Meruk is an integral part, a critical part of the Shechita. Well, how can you give the Shechita to the Acher? Misanya, we have a Brisa that Kol Avodas Yom Kippur made Ksheres Elabo, that the Avod of Yom Kippur has to be implemented by the Kohen Gadol and only by the Kohen Gadol. And now you're giving another Kohen the meruk, which is essential to the shechita. So it says no, hachi kama. This is what Reish Lakish wanted to say. Yachol, I might think that if there was no meruk, is Yehei Pasul Midarabanan. So let me read to you the note here. He says, Yitachen Lomar, Shedafka B'Shchita, She'ena Litzorech Otzas Hadam, Gon Shchitas Behemas Chulin, Shematarasa Lahatir Sachilas Basar HaBehema, Shchitas Rova Simonim Nechshavas Kishchitat Shleim, Machen came Behemas Kodshim, Sheyesh Tzorech Otzas Hadam, Kedei L'Kayim, Bakorban Dam Mitzvahs Rika, it's a trichu chachamim lishchot es kol hasimon. V'im shacher es rubam ein zu shchita shlema. Is leficha chaya ol al das lomer shepaslu chachamim. What would motivate the chachamim to say that in shchitas kodshim, rov simonim would be possible? And the answer is because shchitas kodshim is not the same as shchitas chulin. In shchitas chulin, we have no interest in the dam. I mean, just to get it out, that's all, throw it out. But in kodshim, we need dam, we need the shchita in order to get the dam. Without the dam, we won't be able to be machshel the carbon. So in such a case, since we need the dam, then we would be inclined to assume that we must have shchitas kol asimonim, and rov asimonim and rabbanon would not be sufficient. I'm assuming the following, I hope I'm right, that if you want to get the dam out, you've got to shecht both simonim completely. If you only do part of the simonim, even if it's most of the simonim, but not the entirety, then you won't be able to get the dam. And here in Kodshim, our purpose is to get the dam. And now we turn to Daf Lamed Gimel. Is l'kach shoninu. This is all Reish Lakish. That the reason why the Tana in Chulin adds what we said was redundant and repeats himself as far as Shchitas Rov Simonim to say that it's Kshera. It means that we have to understand the Tana of the Mishnah, that not only in Shchitas Chulin is Rov Ke'echad, Kamo, right? It's kosher. Meaning the Shchita of Rov Simonim is kosher. Even the Shchitas Kodshim, Chashchiti Litzorech Otzos Adam, the same din applies. Rov Echad the Oaf. Ushrov Shnai Behema is Shchitas Kshera. So since the Shchita of Rov Shnayim, let's say the Talmud of Yom Kippur is Shchita Kshera, the Ikar Shchita is not the Meruk, but rather Maisa Kritza. So we see from Reish Lakish that he also, based on what he interpreted in the Lashon of the Mishnah and Chulin, he also derived the conclusion, like Ulin, right, Rabbi Yochanan, that Krotzo in our Mishnah means Rov Shnai. So the Gemara immediately asks, "Vichi mi acher dafilu psula d'rabbanan leka lama li lemorek." Now that you've come to the conclusion that Shchitas Rov Shnayim is Shchita, and it's Ksheira Legamri, it's not even a Psul D'Rabbanan. So why are you bothering with Meir? Why does the Kohen, another Kohen other than Kohen Gadol, have to stand there and complete the process of Shchita when it's already a complete process? When the Kohen Gadol did the Kritza, and that's a Shchita Ksheira. So what's the whole purpose of Meir? And the Gemara answers, mitzvah lemarek. Now, what does this mean, mitzvah lemarek? He writes here, based on Tosus apparently, Kidesh Adam Yetze Yofem Eitzavar HaKarban Vakoin Gadol Yuchal Lekabel Litoch HaMizrach Es Kol Dama. And again, I think what he's saying here is that when you complete the two simanim beyond Rov, you'll get more dam out. So that even though the Maisa Shchita is already Ksheira and it's complete, anything that's critical has been done by the Kohen Gadol, we still want to get more dam out. And therefore we need another Kohen Lemorek. Let me just see if he adds anything here. He says, is an obligation to complete the slaughter so that the animal's blood will pour out freely. And in the footnote, he quotes the Gemara in Tzvachim Chafhei that all lifeblood of the offering should be received in a kli shares. Therefore, another Kohen would complete the severing of the Talmid's pipes so that the Kabbalah requirement could be more easily fulfilled. In other words, there's a certain dam, let's call it dam shanefesh tluyamo, and l'chatchila, there should be a Kabbalah of all the dam of this nature, of this category. It's impossible for the Kohen Gadol to receive all the dam because he hasn't completed the shchita. He only did Rov Shnayim. When the other Kohen completes the shchita, and more dam comes out, and the Kohen Gadol is holding now the Mizrach, he will receive more dam. And the mitzvah is that all the dam of that nature, I mean, remember we discussed in the past that there are 4 different damim, but the dam that we need will completely be in the kli shares, in the Mizrach. However, he writes, since there is no deficiency in the Kohen Gadol slaughter per se, and the Ma'aser Shechita is complete with Rov Shnayim, so therefore when another Kohen completes it for the purpose of obtaining blood, he does not violate the law that requires the Kohen Gadol to perform all of the Yom Kippur service. Now, I don't know why he says that that's a rabbinic law. I didn't assume that that was a rabbinic law. Let's just see. It says here, Kol avodos Yom Kippurim enam ksheros ela bo. He has another discussion here about shechita. Shechita is not an avoda, and yet the Gemara is assuming that the shechita has to be done by the Kohen Gadol. Okay, that's a different discussion. Rabos, I honestly, I plead the fifth of you. I never heard that this halacha of Kol Avodas Yom Kippurim Ksheres Albo is d'Rabbanan. Which he would clarify that. Maybe that's the next sugya in the Gemara. No, the next sugya is, this is a famous Gemara that it's really a Mishnah in Zvachim about the Seder HaMaroch. So let's at least begin the next sugya. Abai havi mesader Marocha mishmei de Gemara alibed abashol. So in other words, there was a tradition about the avodos on a daily basis, lav dafka on Yom Kippur. What was the Seder avodos? And this was a tradition that was attributed to Abba Shol. Marocha Gedola. In other words, we set up the eitzim on the Mizbeach HaChitzon, and there will be makriv, the emurim of the karbanos, using these eitzim, and that kodemes lemarocha shniya shel ketores. Fine. So first we have Seder Arichas Marocha Gedola, then we have Marocha Ketores, and Arichas Marocha Shniya Shel Ketores Kodemes L'Sidur Shnei Gizrei Eitzim. So Shnei Gizrei Eitzim are wood that's added to the fire in order to get a more intense fire. And that will be implemented only after the second Ketores. Right? There was one Ketores that was brought at the evening. Now we're talking about the Ketores ala Boker. And that comes before the Shnei Gizrei Eitzim. Sidur Shnei Gizrei Eitzim Kodem L'Dishun. Now we're going to put So let's go through the order again. We started with what? With the Maracha, with the Eitzim for the Mizbeach HaChitzon. Then we went over to the Maracha of the Ketores. Then we got to Sidur Shnei Gizrei Eitzim. And Sidur Shnei Gizrei Eitzim Kodem L'Dishun Mizbeach HaPnimi. So now we have the Maracha Shnia for the Ketores. Now we're going to take the Gecholim into the Mizbech HaPnimi, and in the evening we'll be Maktir the Ketores a second time. He doesn't go into detail here about how this is done. So maybe tomorrow we'll get more into detail. We'll just finish it up. He says, Maracha Shni Shel Ketores Kodemes LeSidur Shnei Gizrei Eitzim. Sidur Shnei Gizrei Eitzim Kodem LeDishun Mizbech HaPnimi. From the leftover Gecholim of the Ketores. B'Dishun Mizbech HaPnimi Kodem LeHatovas Chamesh Neros. Yeah. So this is what we have to know here about the Dishun. That the Dishun of the Mizbech HaPnimi takes place before Hatovas. And this is complicated because there were 7 Neros. But I think we've discussed this in the past, have we not? That there's 5 Neros and then another 2 Neros. And in between, they brought the Ketores. That's something that we discussed. So Mirza Hashem will try to. He has a summary here. He says Abai lists the order of the daily Mizbeach service based on the tradition that was received in the academy, in the name of the rabbis of the academy, Aliba de Abishol, and in the list that we're about to learn, the cleaning of the menorah lamps precedes the burning of the incense. So he has Hatovas Haneros before the Haktoras, and that reflects the Shita of Abishol back on Daf Yudalit. So Maracha Gdola Kodesh, arranging the main large pyre on the Mizbeach precedes arranging the secondary pyre for the Torres. That is, every morning the Kohanim would arrange on the Mizbeach a large pile of wood upon which the sacrificial parts of all the offerings were burned, and only afterwards would they arrange a secondary pyre 4 amas to the north of the southwest quarter of the Mizbeach. The second pyre was used for supplying the glowing coals that were placed on the Mizbeach HaPnimi in the morning and in the afternoon, upon which the Ketores was burnt at those times. So Maracha Shniya Shel Ketores Kodemes LeSidur Shnei Gizrei Eitzim, the secondary pyre for the incense, precedes the arrangement of the 2 blocks of wood atop the large pyre. Now, the Torah says, "Ubir oleh hakohen eitzim," the Kohen shall kindle wood upon it. And the word eitzim in the plural. And this commandment means to place 2 logs on top of the main pyre. Sidur Shnei Gizrei Eitzim Kodem L'Dishun HaMizbeach HaPnimi. The arrangement of the 2 blocks of wood precedes the separating of the ash from the inner altar. The Dishun Mizbeach HaPnimi Kodem L'Tovas Chamesh Neros. So the separating of the ash from the Mizbeach HaPnimi, that's called the Dishun, precedes the cleaning of the 5 lamps of the menorah. Hatovas Chamesh Neros Kodem L'Dam HaTamid. So cleaning out 5 of the lamps precedes the blood services of the Tamid. The Dam HaTamid Kodem L'Tovas Shtei Neros. Now we have the other 2 Neros. And Hatovas Shtei Neros Kodem L'Ketores. and this is the sheet of Abba Shol, that the Atavas Aneros comes before the Ktores. Ktores Kodem Levarim. Okay, the burning of the limbs of the Tamid. That's in the Mizbeach HaChitzon. Vevarim LeMincha, and the limbs have to be burnt before the Korban Mincha. Mincha LeChavitin, Chavitin LeNisachim, Nisachim LeMusafim, Musafim LeBazichim, Bazichim LeTamid Shal Ben Arbayim, Shenemar. And why is the Tamid Shal Ben Arbayim the last? And the answer is because the pasuk says Vehiktir Aleha Chelbe Hashlamim. Aleha Hashlam Kol Karbonos Kula. So the word Hashlamim here is expounded to mean Hashlim, to complete. And the pasuk therefore implies that upon preparing and bringing the morning Tamid, not the afternoon Tamid, they should continually burn and complete all the other sacrifices. And from here we derive that no sacrifices are offered following the afternoon Karma. Now the Gemara is going to discuss the order of the daily services, beginning with Maracha Gdola Kodemes LeMaracha Shniya Shel Ketores. And then in Mirza Shem, Blineda will pick up tomorrow.